Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Yeonni, and yes, I know, I'm back. There are a plethora of reasons why I'm back. I'm not going to get into that today, but let's just say a lot has happened in the past 3 to 4 months since I said my little goodbye YouTube video, and I think a lot of my perspectives on life and what I want in life has changed, honestly, in just 3 to 4 months. Let me tell you, not now, but next week. That's gonna be next week's video. I almost had to move back to Korea. I almost wasn't able to graduate. A lot happened. But the point of today's video is to just say, hey, I'm back, but also like address how grateful I was for your kindness in those comments. Subscribers who have been with me since day one, new ones that had just found me. I'm back. So don't worry, we're gonna keep making videos. Lots of life changes are happening, but I'm going to be sharing them with you throughout the process. So there's part one of why I popped in this weekend. Secondly, it has been so challenging to get back to your questions and messages on my Instagram. I'm just realizing I'm not a short form content person. I can't do it. There's so much pressure to be like on my phone all the time responding. So I really just prefer hopping on here once or twice a week. I feel like it's just more intentional. So with that said, I compiled as many of the questions I got the last few months into my phone, and I just wanted to rapid fire answer them for y'all because I've been feeling so bad that I've been terrible at responding on Instagram, but this is just my outlet. This is my form of communicating clearly. So if you haven't asked me any questions and you're not interested in my answers, then you can leave now, you can log off. It was just a hello, I'm back. Thank you for your kindness and warmth. I'm excited to share more videos on psychology, mental health, social work, all of that and the above, and my life, because my life is going through a lot of big changes. But if you did ask a question, or if you're curious about my answers about all the aforementioned topics, that's this next part of the video. Hi, I'm currently an MSW student at Columbia, so Master of Social Work student at Columbia. I plan in pivoting to counseling psych for PhD. Awesome. Any thoughts or advice for the transition? I have so many. I'm sorry, I know it's annoying when I do this sometimes, but that's a whole video in itself, but I will write that down as a video to make in the next few weeks. I have learned so much through this transition. So the advice I could give you in this format right now is, first, make sure to come back to my channel for that video. I promise it'll go up in the next few weeks. It is a topic that I'm very passionate about, and as I enter into like my internship residency year now, I've been doing a lot of reflecting. That's the first thing I would say. And the big overall general theme on advice is you have to be hyper vigilant. That is something I learned. Like, you have to be on top of yourself, on top of your supervisors, on top of the program, because this transition really was not as seamless as I had naively imagined it would be, which makes sense. Like, although we're all doing therapy, we're all in the mental health field, the ethos and like the historical like background of social work and psychology inherently are so different, and I really felt that through like every obstacle I faced in this process. So like, you have to be on top of it. A lot of checking into yourself with like, is this really what I want to do? What is my why? But that's all I'll say for now for you who would just ask this question, and for others who are interested in a transition from social work to psychology. I'll make a video on that probably in 2 weeks, because next week will be my what happened, my life imploded in the months that I was gone from YouTube video. So hi Yeonni, can you talk about clinical psychology specialties, choosing internship sites? Once again, that's like a whole nother video. There's just so much I can say, but just for like a quick answer, choosing specialties in psychology there's a lot of pressure to like just know what you want to do, maybe even before entering the program. But something I learned that really helped me a lot was like, you can figure out what your specialty is while in a PhD program. Not the same for everyone. You mentioned clinical psychology. I'm in a counseling psychology PhD program, so at least that was my experience, where I had a general idea of like, for example, I want to work with adults, and like I wasn't exactly nailed down on like, do I want to work in like with like substance use populations, or maybe like older adults, like geriatric populations? Or do I want to work specifically just in like diversity, Asian mental health population? And honestly, I still haven't really nailed that down, because a big part of this training is to be open-minded and see, what can I see myself doing in the long run. And often you don't have to have just one subspecialty, at least in my experience, but I also know friends in the clinical psychology PhD program, which is a different program, that have had very specific interests since day one. Like for example, like veterans mental health. I know someone who just straight up cared about that, wants to be a military psychologist, and he's well on his way to do that. It really depends on clinical counseling. It also depends on who you apply to work with. Also depends on what school, right? Because the counseling psychology PhD program at my school can be and is most likely very different from one just from like down the street at Fordham University. So other things to consider. But if you're feeling a pressure to specialize now, I would say maybe that doesn't have to be the way. And choosing internship sites, the I word. So much of my chaos the past few months has been because of internship applications. So that is a video I am already scripting and working on that will be coming up. Choosing internship sites, it's a really, really important decision to make. And I learned a lot in the last few months, and that will be a video in itself. But if I could drop something now in this video to make it helpful, is really choose something that you want to do rather than choosing something that you feel like you have to do for an internship. I think that's something I learned, which kept me vigilant and have the tenacity to like keep going through a really difficult internship application season. You really need to know what you want to do, and what you want to do is often more important than what you feel like you have to do. What to think about when considering clinical psych: what skills, passions, matter, options. Okay, so you mentioned clinical psych here. So once again, I'm in a counseling psychology program. So keep that in mind as I answer what skills, passions matter. I feel like I said before in the previous question, there is this notion that you kind of have to have everything prepared before you apply for or get into a PhD program. It really isn't true. While I did have clinical experience as a social worker and research experience prior to entering my PhD program, I learned so much about research, so much about clinical work while in the program. So I would say your passions and your interests and skills can change and definitely will develop and will change. Something for me personally, I always had a passion to work with like diverse, marginalized populations. I think that was sort of set into my heart when I was working as a social worker. It was really important for me to work with folks that perhaps are often overlooked by society, which is why my heart often landed in like the unhoused population, substance use population. A lot of the patients that I've worked with in the past have really impacted my passion and what I want in my psychology degree. So that continued on and continues on in my work, and I feel like going to continue on for the rest of my life, really, because it's not just about the passion in the scope of psychology, but it is a value of mine as like a human being and a person. So I think having that kind of conviction rooted into my value as a human being really guide me throughout the psychology degree, helped me to like maintain course when things got really tough, like these past few months, which I keep alluding to. I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that. But yes, passions will change, skills will develop. No need to feel pressure to have it all together before your degree. How to find passion and advocate as a psychologist. So how to find passion? That's really a good question. It is almost like an existential question, because I think ever since I was a child, for me at least, I was always quite passionate about many things. I'm very excited. I'm very like fiery and like angry about like social injustices. So I think that helped me to find my sort of niche in psychology. If you were thinking about how to find passion, I think a thought I'm having is it's often important to expose yourself to lots of different environments, lots of different skills. So let's say if you've never worked with children before, try working with kids. If you've never worked with adults before, try working with adults. If you've only worked in a hospital, try working in like an outpatient setting, try working for a nonprofit. So that's a way to expose yourself. And I'm realizing as I'm saying, it's hard to just like find different jobs, obviously, in today's economy and society. So research. Definitely look into like what, there's people out there doing this work, right, that are very passionate about these populations, these sites. What are their lives like? There's books out there, there's articles out there, day in the life of a whatever, doing whatever job with whatever people in whatever setting. In the era of social media and the internet and also Google Scholar, where there's peer-reviewed literature, there's so much out there. And as you're like kind of immersing yourself in all this information, try to kind of check in with your heart on how you're feeling. Like, do you notice yourself feeling really excited as you read something? Are you noticing yourself feeling really angry about injustices when you're reading about a certain population going through something? I think often when we find passion or we're looking for it, it's kind of immersing ourselves in different environments and different information and checking in with our own hearts and our souls on what really sets it on fire. So that cannot be done over a day, or maybe it can. Timeline and how it looks and the depth looks so different for everyone. But those are just some thoughts I'm having. Advocate as a psychologist. That is also another whole video in itself. From what I've learned so far, often there are folks who come into the field and they just want to be a psychologist, and that's totally fine. So being like a social justice advocate and a psychologist leads to lots of active decisions that I've had to make that are not often welcomed by everybody. So you have to kind of move in stealth sometimes. Even applying to internship, I'm an advocate at heart and I want to be a psychologist, and I learned that not every site and not every supervisor wants that. They don't care about that, or they don't want that. And actually having that on your resume and on your cover letters can actually, you know, keep you from certain jobs, is a lesson I learned, which was quite painful but important to learn. Are you able to research what excites you, or is grad psych more about working for a mentor? That's a great question. I would say the answer that is often the answer with these kinds of questions, it really depends. I have a mentor who has very robust projects going on all the time. So he does support my research. However, lab research comes first, and then my research comes to the side. And also, I have friends in our same program that have different PIs and mentors whose entire MO is just supporting grad students' independent research. So there's pros and cons to all of it. I think like those friends, there's a lot of pressure for them to constantly apply for grants, constantly have new research ideas, because that's kind of expected from them. But they get to do what they want to do all the time, which is really cool. For me, I've learned a lot about research and running a lab through working with my mentor and PI. I haven't had as much time to do my own independent research because of that. But also, if something has been important for me, you know, I've gone to the AAPA, Asian American Psychological Association conference with friends through like outside work that I've had to do outside of lab time, and it was always wonderful. So you can make it work, and it really depends on your PI, your mentor, your program. I am wrapping up with the questions. I've gotten a number of questions saying, like, given your experiences as like a CRC, as a social worker, a psychology student, as a therapist, can I hop on a call with folks to talk one-on-one? While I wish I could do that, I think it's important for me to just definitively say, right now, I don't really have the capacity to hop on calls one-on-one with folks to do like a private like consult session. I wish we could just grab coffee and like talk about things, because like if you were like in my vicinity, in my area, at my school, I have done that with a lot of master's students at my program who are interested in the type of work that I do. Some of y'all find me through my YouTube channel, which I find so interesting. But like, if you are like not like at my school, if you're not someone I know, it is a little challenging for me to do one-on-one consult. So hopefully YouTube can be a way that I can be more interactive and help y'all with your individual questions. And maybe consultations can be something I can do when I am a licensed psychologist, and that can be something I can do to help y'all. Just right now, as a student working on my dissertation, having been accepted to internship, and I have to move soon for internship, hint, hint, clue to next week, I don't have capacity to do that. But thank you so much for even reaching out and asking. That's really kind of you. And yes, that's it, really. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you have watched thus far, sorry for the whiplash of like, I'm gone, no, I'm back. But like I said, it's a lesson, and maybe we're allowed to change our minds sometimes, and I'm really trying to embody it, and also trying to embody that whole spiel I said about passion, that I am really passionate about YouTube. I had a lot of reasons why I felt like I couldn't do this anymore, but I would be lying if I said I didn't want to come back. YouTube has been such a constant for me for like the past 7-8 years of my life. And anytime I bump into y'all at school, I bumped into someone recently who I think is joining our program, and she was like, by the way, I watch your YouTube videos. Like, that happened really recently, and I think I kept getting messages of what I'm doing here is meaningful and helping folks. So since that is my ethos for everything in life, why not continue? With that said, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you liked it. Leave me some comments down below. So excited to reconnect. I will be back next week with a coffee in hand, and you should all prepare a meal, a drink, or a snack as well. It's going to be a long one on what I went through the past few months and what brought me back to YouTube and what to expect, because y'all, we are moving. We are leaving New York City. Lots of life changes happening, but I'm excited to be back so I can share all of that with you. I hope you take care of yourselves emotionally, physically, mentally, in all of those very important ways. And I will see you next week. Bye.